Okay, so Games Workshop have just upset the entire Warhammer community, and this time they've strangled all my hopes as well. I didn't need hope anyway, I live in Ireland. Okay, so Warhammer Age of Sigmar, it just came out, not to its friends and family or anything. We always knew that game was gay as hell, and though many people hate Age of Sigmar for merely existing, that too is not the major scandal here. So, you know, put down the pitchfork, peasant. That's not me being rude, I'm just calling old world players peasant, because being put down is kind of their love language. I used to date one. They can only get turned on if they're dying in the mud with no one ever knowing their name. And if that doesn't turn them on, then they're not playing old world correctly. But yes, Age of Sigmar, a new edition of the game, was just released this summer. And as a game, I have to say, it is genuinely really fun. I've played it a whole bunch because I actually do sometimes find the time to actually play Warhammer. I like the pace of the combat, I like the layout of the rules, I like the hero ball nature of it. I think it's an improvement on Warhammer 40k. It's probably one of the best designed Warhammer games in recent memory. I think the lore is improving. In short, Age of Sigmar is fun, and in fact, I actually reviewed the game for my Patreon bonus video, which I do every month, and you can check that out in the link below. If you think I'm always negative, then check out my reviews on there because, you know, I even crack a smile sometimes. Unfortunately, Games Workshop disagree with my assessment of Age of Sigmar. Apparently, they don't think that the game is very good at all because they don't want anyone playing it. Yeah, it turns out that the honeymoon is over. The Games Workshop executive class have now decided to end a 9-year tradition for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. That's basically its entire lifespan. And they've taken the decision to remove access to the war scrolls and datasheets and army rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar factions from the internet. These things that used to be free for players, they have been cast down into oblivion. And now Games Workshop have instead chosen to lock all of that precious, necessary data that's required to actually play the game behind a $60 purchase of a hardback battletome. Yup, everything is gone just like a sudden heart attack, the type that claimed my estranged great uncle Albert. But this time it wasn't an accident. It was brought on maliciously for profit, like the baseless allegations about my involvement in the death of my great uncle Albert. And by the way, this new policy of Games Workshop to no longer provide free rules for the factions of Age of Sigmar, that includes all the spearhead rules as well. Games Workshop just snapped those away too, which has totally undermined Spearhead's place as the accessible, easy to get into wargame that's meant to pipeline people straight into the FOMO hype-riddled oblivion. That is the modern Games Workshop release method. Oops, I guess they forgot about that. And obviously, the Age of Sigmar community are upset about this, because of course they are, and they should be. Many have taken to social media to platform their outrage on this topic, but they're talking to Games Workshop, who as a company have decided to just not respond to any of the complaints or criticisms or comments at all, which is, to be frank, unsurprising. Games Workshop don't really seem to care about the community, at least on the executive side. The corporate Games Workshop behemoth would prefer to simply siphon out as much money as possible from every single player and then, I don't know, probably just wants us all to fuck off and die or whatever. Games Workshop obviously have no shame because they had promised to keep the rules for Age of Sigmar accessible, and now they've just backed out on that. I mean, at least you can trust your crack dealer to lie for you, you know? He is fucking solid, he's got your back, but Games Workshop would snitch you out in a second. They would go back on their word. Now, this new policy to remove datasheets and war scrolls from the internet has started with the Skaven faction. When the new Skaven battletome was put up for pre-order, all the free rules for them disappeared overnight, never to be seen again, like my partner and the kids. Please call me back, I've got my crack problem under control. You can call my dealer, he will verify that. But as the year continues, the rest of the Age of Sigmar factions are also going to be losing all of their rules as well, and you'll be forced to spend money to see what the miniatures that you paid like $160 for actually do in the game that you'd think Games Workshop would want you to play, but again, they apparently don't. So here's my advice. While you still have access to the liquor cabinet, aka the Warhammer community downloads page, I'd recommend you make like a servant in the Winter Palace circa November 6th, 1917, and grab as much as you can and then get the hell out, because everything on there is going away forever and soon. So if you want to play Age of Sigmar, download everything you need now. This is the PSA for that. And obviously this advice only works if you're not a Skaven player. Hi, I'm a Skaven player, or if you're new, or if you trust Games Workshop at all. And this should be another lesson in why we shouldn't trust Games Workshop at all. But also, can I just get this out of the way? This is obviously bad, right? Like, this is supervillain stuff, taking rules and things that are required to play the game that were free, and then cynically putting a price on them and selling them in an additional physical product. It makes the game less accessible for players. It makes the game harder to play. It makes it tougher to get people into wargaming. These are all bad things. We're all agreed on that, right? And there's been plenty of commenters saying that since this change, their friends have lost interest in trying Age of Sigmar after they were told they'd need to buy a very expensive book just to start. Come on, that's why I've advocated for free rules for years, even back when it was unthinkable, in the dark days of 1989. I'm telling you, they should have been mailing out circulars. And to be honest, the thing that's particularly irksome about all this, I thought we'd gotten somewhere with Games Workshop lately, especially for Age of Sigmar. I mean, Age of Sigmar is already an extremely expensive wargame to get into. It really, truly is. Seriously, check out any other wargame brand and you'll be paying less than half the cost for more. For example, you could check out Port Royal. Port Royal is a campaign-based tactical warband-sized skirmish wargame where players take control of small companies of privateers, Native Americans, local government forces, and, of course, pirates to do battle for loot, plunder, experience, and infamy while developing their scurvy crew amongst the ruins of earthquake-struck Jamaica. Port Royal includes player versus player gameplay, cooperative gameplay, and even a solo mode, so even if all your mates are landlubbers, you can still get to taste the sweet ichor of the pirate life. The game is simple. Merely create a company, choosing your faction, and then equip your forces with blades, muskets, and more. Then you battle for plunder amongst the ruins using the inbuilt scenario generator and random event system, acquiring pieces of 8, discovering rare treasure, gaining experience, or even suffer grave injuries that will go on to bedevil your crew in future conquests. After all, nobody said the pirate life was gonna be easy. Each campaign of Port Royal is a unique experience, as players will learn to love their duplicitous little lads, celebrating their grave victories and their terrible losses. And ultimately, the player who gains the most infamy will earn the right to be known as the Pirate King of the Seven Seas. Yahar! Although I think I added that last part. So order Port Royal now from the link below because late pledges are currently open. You can get super customizable miniatures, the rules, punchboard, terrain, dice, game mat, and all the tokens you'll ever need, all for only $79. Click the link below, and thanks to Firelock Games for sponsoring today's video. So yeah, Age of Sigmar just got more expensive. And the weird thing about these new battle tomes that contain all the rules for play is that most people will be buying them just to get access to a QR code in the back of the book so they can get access to the Skaven rules on the mobile phone gaming app. Which also, by the way, that app used to include all the Skaven index datasheets and rules for free until the new battle tome was put up for pre-order that contains the QR code that now you have to get access to those rules. And to use that app for list building, you have to subscribe to Warhammer Plus. Now you have to buy the book to get the same content, and that's really weird, right? It's weird to lock rules away, to make it harder to play the game, to force people to buy a fucking book in 2024 just to get access to an app on your phone. It's very, very odd, and it only makes sense if you've been through the labyrinthine, twisted minds of Games Workshop history. I have been there, and I'm telling you right now, I've come out the other end pretty changed. I don't think it works anymore. But that's not even the worst of it, because Games Workshop made this all even worse, and they came after me personally. See, I've always had a problem with the Age of Sigmar battle tomes, and same with the Warhammer 40k codices. Personally, I think they're expensive. They're hardcover, they're difficult to transport, and they're just filled with lore and fluff, which is cool to read when you're trying to distract yourself at night from the kneecapping happening in the alley outside the back of your house because you live in a high crime risk density neighborhood because you're a YouTuber and it doesn't pay very well at all. You know, we've all been there. But not so hot when you're at the gaming table and you just want to see your unit rules. Imagine my surprise then when Games Workshop announced that there would be a brand new type of battletome, the Gamers Edition, made for gamers, by gamers, to eat gamers. This is a smaller, leaner sized battletome, soft back, no fluff, no lore, just all the rules so it's easier to transport and get to the good stuff. Perfect. And Games Workshop used to do these. Sometimes they'd be thrown in for free into bundles. I was looking forward to this new version of the battletome. It looks genuinely like a useful product. But then the price of these things was revealed. And surprise, it's more expensive than a standard hardback battletome. More expensive than something that comes with more content. Can you imagine being one of the Age of Sigmar lore writers and being told that your lore actively adds negative value to the book? And it's also a limited edition FOMO product that you only get the chance to buy once? Oh, and by the way, if you didn't buy it before, you'll never be able to buy it again. It's sold out online now. What the hell is going on here? Games Workshop are putting me in a grave. That or it's all the crack. I don't know what the hell is going on over in Nottingham. I think I got a monkey paw sitting around here somewhere. This is pretty much the most trash way of introducing an otherwise incredible product. This could have been really cool. This could have been a video praising such an innovation. They were this close to greatness. Now, look, I know what the comments under this video are going to say. You should have seen this all coming. Of course, Games Workshop are going to put the War Scrolls behind a paywall. And to be honest, okay, I did kind of suspect this would happen. I gotta admit it. And the reason why is because Games Workshop actually pulled this exact same scam with Warhammer 40k in September last year, the exact same month. Remember that? 10th edition 40k launched with free rules. Games Workshop said it was all going to be super accessible. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, they introduced a paywall. They forced everyone to buy battletomes. And now Warhammer 40k 10th edition sucks to try and buy into. But here's the thing. It was shit when Games Workshop did it last year, and it's shit that they're doing it again now. But that's not all, because there is one major difference with this particular scam as well. And it's that Age of Sigmar has always had free War Scrolls. Since the very beginning, when it was born, spat out of a Norn Queen 9 years ago. And as a result of losing free access to those War Scrolls, well, it's been devastating. For Warhammer 40k's, losing access to all their free rules was just Tuesday. For Age of Sigmar, it's unprecedented. Age of Sigmar players are used to be courted and wooed and treated with some measure of respect. And that's because the game is still growing. And Games Workshop have always known that Age of Sigmar is just simply less popular than 40k. That to build a community for Age of Sigmar, they have to put in a bit of effort. And for Age of Sigmar, every new player is precious. With Warhammer 40k, players just fall into Games Workshop's lap, so, you know, who cares how many slip outside the sales funnel, never to be seen again outside of the occasional post on a Space Marine 2 Reddit thread with that classic refrain, I always wanted to play the tabletop game, but it was just too expensive. Games Workshop don't care about those guys. They're not rich enough to be in the exclusive luxury Warhammer hobby. That luxury hobby that sits alongside yachting, sports cars, and collecting popes. I, in contrast, however, do actually care about every wargamer who is interested at all in joining the wargaming hobby, because more players equals a better, safer, more sustainable wargame hobby for all of us. And I suspect there's a reason why Games Workshop have only removed the Skaven War Scrolls right now from the downloads page on Warhammer Community, and it's to drive sales to their battletome, obviously, but also to slowly roll out the removal of these rules so that the community doesn't hit a critical mass of complaints, so that not everyone is devastated at once, so it's not the Blitz, it's just a little 9/11. Well, I'm not buying. I think that Games Workshop's 9/11 is bad, actually, and I defy anyone to say in the comments that they support this 9/11. Go on, say it. Say you support 9/11. Well, personally, I think that this was in really poor taste. And to be honest, it has kind of put me off Age of Sigmar. I mean, I've got my Skaven that I had originally bought for the old world, and then they kind of got half cancelled, so I converted them for Age of Sigmar, the new edition, and now I'm finding out that all my rules are now redundant, and I can't even get access to them online. And so I'm just left kind of not wanting to play with them at all. And that really blows. I was excited for Age of Sigmar. I thought that this time it might have been different, but I guess not. Games Workshop just really wanted to do a 9/11. Look, Games Workshop should be encouraging play as much as possible, instead of forcing us to rely on things like Wikipedia and fan tools like Age of Index to fill in that gap. This has been some extremely lame news, and it's just kind of soured me on the new Age of Sigmar entirely. And that blows, because it was a game that I was kind of hyped for. I was getting into the lore, I was reading the books, I was genuinely enjoying myself. I just wish Games Workshop hadn't done a 9/11. And as always, a huge thanks to my patrons. My videos have been increasingly getting demonetized as of late. I have no idea why, but I just really want to thank patrons who make this all possible. You can check out the link to my Patreon below. So big thanks to you guys, especially CryptoKev, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.